Welcome to the deep dive. So today we are jumping into probably one of the most hotly anticipated releases in, well, the romantasy genre. Trust me, people are talking.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at Onyx Storm,
Like,
Rebecca Yarros. It's the third book, in the Empyrean Series following Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Just dropped January 21st, 2025.
and our plan today really is to kind of sift through what people are saying, all the reviews, the different takes. We want to pull out the main insights. We'll look at how the world got bigger, what's going on with the characters, and yeah, we'll need to talk about some of the criticisms too.
Exactly. Because it seems like this one, it's hitting differently for different readers. We want to help you figure out, what's clicking for some, and maybe what isn't clicking quite as much for others. It's pretty interesting to see how these big series evolve.
Definitely.
So talking about that evolution, the first big thing everyone seems to mention is the world. It's just exploded, right? We're way beyond Baziev now.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. We're talking wild lands, hidden temples, rooftop politics, remote islands.
Ancient dragon stuff.
Yeah, ancient draconic lore.
Yeah.
It's a massive leap, geographically and culturally, too.
Okay, let's unpack this. The world just got so much bigger, right?
Right. And what's fascinating here is how that broadened scope isn't just about new scenery, but it fundamentally changes the challenges and opportunities for the characters.
So,
Well, it opened things up. Richer magic systems, deeper cultural stuff that just wasn't possible when they were stuck at the War College.
makes sense.
And then you've got the main plot drivers, like Violet, hunting for that seventh dragon breed, the Irids,
Right, the mysterious ones.
and her trying to find a cure for Xaden,
Yeah.
who's now Venin. We talk about raising the stakes.
Seriously, huge pressure on both of them and the whole story, really.
Yeah, exactly. It changes everything.
Okay, but a bigger world, more plot.
Hmm.
That sometimes leads to issues, yeah. It sounds like the writing and maybe the pacing have been kind of divisive.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This book seems to be a tale of two halves for many readers.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because on one side, people absolutely loved the vivid descriptions, feeling that dragon bond.
The action scenes.
Yeah, big cinematic action sequences and real emotional depth. That passion is definitely still there. You feel it. But the pacing, that's the big criticism. Lots of readers felt the middle just dragged. Too much jumping around, maybe. World hopping.
And info dumps, I heard that mentioned.
Exactly. Heavy info dumps that kind of stalled things out. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of pacing challenge highlights how crucial narrative flow is, even in rich fantasy world.
Right.
It raises an important question. How much exposition can a reader absorb before it becomes, a barrier?
Yeah, like it's hard to keep track.
Precisely. So many new names, places, political groups. Some readers felt a bit lost, like you'd almost need to reread the first two books just to follow along.
Wow.
And that split is clear in the reviews. You see some scores like 5 or 6 out of 10, but then others are giving it 4.5 out of 5, loving the emotion, the epic scale.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very divisive.
So what does this all mean for the characters we've grown to love, or maybe grown attached to? How are their journeys holding up with this bigger world and these pacing issues?
Well, let's start with Violet. Her arc seems to be continuing its upward trend, mostly.
Yeah.
She's definitely growing, more confident, facing these huge moral dilemmas, dealing with her legacy, the prophecy, trying to lead. It's a lot.
And Xaden, still the brooding favorite.
He is. Very much dead.
Yeah.
Still grappling with that Venin Bauer. Romantasy fans, they still adore him for sure.
I feel a butt coming.
Well, some critics found him maybe a little one note this time around, and a bit static compared to Violet, perhaps. It's a fair point some are making about his specific growth in this book.
Okay. And the others. The squad.
Right, the secondary characters. Well,
Yeah.
the Dragon's Tarn and Darna still steal the show. Everyone agrees on that. They're fantastic. But the humans, Riddoch, Rhiannon, Sawyer, Imogen, the feedback is often that they felt a bit underdeveloped in Onyx Storm. Like they didn't get enough focus.
Okay. So maybe spread a bit thin.
Could be. And this raises an important question about consistency in character arcs, especially when dealing with elements like physical challenges that resonated with readers in earlier books.
I mean, Violet's joint issues?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a specific criticism that came up quite a bit. It was so central in Fourth Wing, right? The defining part of her character.
Yeah, definitely.
But in Onyx Storm, some readers felt it just faded away. Like it wasn't really a factor anymore. And for people who connected with that aspect, it felt like maybe glossing over something important. They questioned why that detail became less central.
Interesting point. Something maybe got lost in the sheer scale of everything else happening.
Perhaps. It's a balancing act for sure.
So, moving beyond just the characters, the romance, still the fiery core.
Oh, absolutely. That connection between Xaden and Violet. Still passionate, still front and center. That raw chemistry, kind of amplified by the dragon bond.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's still the engine for a lot of readers.
gotcha. But it sounds like while the core romance is still fiery, the series itself might be expanding in unexpected ways, or maybe planned ways that feel unexpected to readers.
That's where the debate really heats up, I think. The book definitely explores some big themes alongside the romance.
Like what?
Well, the duality of power is huge.
Yeah.
Onyx Storm itself, the name, kind of represents both destruction and healing. Then there's the burden of legacy, love costing a lot, questioning institutions. It's all in there.
Okay.
But this ties into that series bloat criticism you hear.
Ah, right, the 5 books thing.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a trilogy originally. Now it's 5.
Yeah.
And we connect this to the bigger picture. It's a common challenge for successful series. How to expand a universe without sacrificing the tightly woven plot that drew readers in initially.
So Onyx Storm feels like setup.
For some readers, yes. It feels like a middle book that's mainly there to move pieces around for the next books, rather than telling its own complete satisfying story.
Yeah.
Like filler, basically.
That's tough for a reader waiting for answers.
It really is. This raises an important question about how filler affects the perception of the overall narrative.
Yeah.
It risks turning that anticipation into, well, frustration if resolutions keep getting pushed further down the line. It can lessen the impact of each book.
So after digging through all this, all the different viewpoints, what's the takeaway? What's the verdict on Onyx Storm?
I'd say it's undeniably ambitious. Sweeping scope, big drama, high emotion, definitely expands the world. But it does seem to struggle under its own weight sometimes. The complex politics, that inconsistent pacing we talked about, the heavy exposition, it takes a toll.
So like a star rating, if you had to average it out from what people are saying.
Looking at the range, probably lands around a 3 out of 5, maybe. It's got passion, those huge dragon moments, real emotional stakes. But it's also got that narrative drag, the uneven character focus we mentioned.
Okay, so who should pick this up? And who might want to maybe wait or even skip it?
Definitely for the dedicated romantasy fans. If you love the world, love Xaden and Violet, and you don't mind digging into deep lore or navigating slower sections while the bigger picture unfolds, then yeah, go for it.
And who might want to pass?
Well, if you prefer really tight plotting, strong development for all the side characters, or maybe fantasy that's more character-driven without quite so much intricate world-building taking center stage, this one might test your patience.
Fair enough. It really sounds like you need to know what you're signing up for with this one.
Exactly.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something for you listeners to chew on. When a series you love expands, goes beyond its original plan, what's the cost to the story, to the characters you care about? How do authors find that balance between giving readers more, because often we do want more, and keeping the story focused, keeping that narrative integrity?
Yeah. And how do your own expectations shift when a story takes a turn
you
didn't quite see coming?
Something to think about. Okay, that's our deep dive on Onyx Storm. Hope this helped you get a clearer picture.
Yeah, hope it was useful.